Hello and welcome to Tech Talk with me, Pranjal Sharma. Today I'm in conversation with Deepak NG. He is the Dassault Systems India Managing Director. Deepak, thanks for joining
Thank you,
us today.
Pranjal. It's pleasure talking to you.
So Dassault Systems has a very big brand name and profile globally. But in India, what has been the work profile? What are the various sectors that you've been operating it in the recent years?
Yes, Dassault Systems is a big brand name, as you rightly said. In India, we also continue to do what globally we have been kind of working with most of our sectors. At a very high level, if I have to tell you, we operate in three sectors to support our customers. One is manufacturing, infrastructure, and life sciences. So in manufacturing, the industries like automotive and aerospace and defense, then you have high tech, consumer packaged goods. These are all fall under manufacturing for us. And in infrastructure, energy and materials, cities and construction, and of course in life sciences, personalized patient care, pharma. So they all actually fall under that category as part of the industries we support in India. And in India, we also, one is supporting our customers. And second thing, we do have a team who is responsible for providing value added services to implement and configure the products and solutions what we offer. And also a big team responsible for the product development also.
Okay, so when you say support or you help your clients, what does it mean? I mean, do you set up the systems? Are you creating the software? Are you collaborating? What does that exactly mean? So let's take it sector wise. You mentioned the three verticals. Let's talk about manufacturing first.
Yeah.
So who would be your who would be your typical client? What kind of work would you do with them?
Okay, so I can take a simple example to give an idea on what we do. Yes, in manufacturing sector, if I have to pick automotive as a reference. So, I'll take it for the ease of reference, I'll take it car maker. So, somebody is actually into a car manufacturing. So, there is a complete value chain, right? Right from gathering the market information to what actually the consumer expects. So, it has a different stages. So, you have designing, concept design, you do detailed design, your simulation, supplier collaboration, then actually go into dealer management, and then you give it to end users. So what we have done at Dassault Systems is for each industry and for each segment, we have captured we have captured entire value chain in such a way that every single process what an organization go through, maybe right from your quality to testing to supplier, so everything has been captured as an industry solution experience from us. And those industry solution experiences will be having some processes related to that. How a car is manufactured, is it in a, what do they do in shop floor, what do they do with supplier, and for that you have roles, right? And there's an engineer, so we have a role created, and everybody is equipped with an application to support digitally to perform their job. In a typical car making company, if I had to tell you, so they build the virtual 3D of the car before actually it hits the road. So every single component of the vehicle car, I'm taking car as an example, it can be a cell phone to airplane to cities to anything. So you build everything in your computer with exactly the way it behaves in the physical world, and then simulate all the testings, and then you release it to the market. So we have customers like Mahindra and many, most of the automotive companies and aerospace companies even in India are using us.
So you use the phrase virtual twin. How is that different from a digital twin? Because digital twin is something that many global companies have been talking about.
Um, See, digital twin, virtual. I can talk about virtual twin. So what happened was, I have to give you some history on this. Okay, Dassault Systems way back in 1980s, when they wanted to really help Dassault Aviation to build something. So a group of engineers stepped out and said, "Can we create something in the computer or a 3D model of the components what we actually need to kind of produce for an aircraft, right?" And they were successful in creating that in early 80s. So when they discovered then the whole idea of, when I can create a component, I can actually create the entire assembly. That's how the digital mockup word coined. And Dassault Systems was actually one of the player who actually introduced that terminology, and big players like, whether it is Boeing or most of the aerospace companies, they kind of started to adopt that technology. So you had component level, you had assembly. Then it kind of started to spread across. Why not? If I can build an aircraft, I can make car, I can make cell phones, I can actually make shampoo bottles to design. So it started everywhere. So in the whole journey, if you see, the context was on a 3D model, which is nothing but a digital replica of what the end product is. Now, Dassault Systems also realized that there are a lot of content associated to that. It's not just a 3D model. A 3D model has some associated government policies to look at, and the material properties to validate, and there is a sustainability element, like how are you actually catering to the market. So there are many things which is happening non-engineering side of it when you're component. So now your digital twin can be a data, 3D data, which is connected. It can be connected to a machine, it can be connected to your with all your IoT devices, but there are so much of data, and that data has set with a process. Like if I have to run through a simulation process, there is a sequence of activities which happens, may not be associated with the 3D model, but there is a process like your APQP process, your approval process. So bringing in process, data, and the product all put together is a virtual twin.
That's interesting because the typical, understanding of a digital twin is that it's basically a simulation of a engineering creation, where you can see how it would work in the real world, and be able to create predictive corrections before it actually is manufactured. But what you're talking about is much deeper and wider, because you're bringing non-engineering issues. For example, maybe there would be regulatory issues, they could be quality issues, which you are including in the virtual twin. How does it improve the outcome for the client?
Okay, so interestingly, the item or the digital twin or the virtual twin, what we talked about, will become a single source of truth, which was actually giving information to the engineering aspects, and then, as you rightly said, about the simulation and the behavior of the product. Now, in the virtual twin, you have two interesting things. One, there are certain elements which, as I said earlier, which can be linked. Like for example, there is a consumer feedback which you get, like I mean, how do I feed that feedback and then validate with my product to see the behavior, so that the engineer can actually try and change the way you want to design or you want to work on that. So that means you're attaching them, and most importantly, we can actually connect virtual to real. So you need to get the data also back. So for example, if I have to say, in one of the automotive plant, what we have done is, while in the virtual twin context, it's not only product, you create virtual twin of the factory also, virtual twin of the organization. When I create a virtual twin of the factory, the entire sequence of activity what is carried out physically is exactly carried out in the virtual world, and it can actually roll back and see what else we could have done better, what else we could have done, I mean, how could have done far faster. So there are many aspects which can be done by connecting back the physical information back to your digital data as well.
So it's a virtuous loop
Exactly,
that
we
you
call it
create.
as the entire in the loop. Like you have this entire connection, so that end product will come with all possible approvals, or clarifications what you need for that to hit the market.
And this you are applying even to the infrastructure vertical.
This is very interesting. See, now, I mean, I told you, right, it started with a simple component, and then we created an assembly, and then it started with multiple industries. When it can be done for an aircraft, when it can be done for a car, the whole idea and the concept started bringing in is, why can't we create virtual cities? So, I mean, the one may ask, like, why do we need virtual cities? So, if you look at the city where we live, is also can be considered as, I mean, I'll not call it as a product or an assembly of components, but it's a set of group. Like, I mean, you have
Well, it's an entity of various parts, and
you have like water department, you have policy makers, you have citizens requirement. So, and then you have all the informations flowing in. So can we create a virtual twin of a city, not just the replica of the city, how it looks like, but also all the information is connected to that.
So it's not the physical infrastructure, not just the roads, pipelines, and the electricity poles, but also the various facilities and the teams and the perhaps the organizations that are coordinating to keep the city running
I can give an
24/7.
example. So, if you just imagine we build a virtual city, entire city can be captured, and you have every single building, every single park, what you can actually physically see is captured in the virtual environment, and it's not just a walkthrough or a visualization. It has all the material properties. It has all the exact what kind of size and dimension and location. Everything is done. And now imagine an urban planner wants to decide a new flyover or new metro station he need to put. So he can actually on top of it, he can top up using the digital applications what we have, products like Ketia, SolidWorks, what we give, and then build on top of your virtual city to simulate, if I put this track, what kind of land acquisitions I need to look for.
So it's not just for greenfield projects, even for an existing city, you can plan it and map it. But the difficult part, I would assume, Deepak, is to map it. Now, how do you map a city of, let's say, 10 million people, which is usually, if you look at the Indian context, most of it is a urban sprawl, not very pretty. How do you even begin to create that virtual twin?
No, I see. Now, particularly unlike a product or a car or a plane, right? You're absolutely right. City is not easy. So it's my own way of actually explaining. What I say, it's a process which has to get started, because the cities and territory, and I feel India being, I'll call it as a young country, which is actually getting into the infrastructure development, right? And looking like, if I had to see 10 years from now, the amount of expectation from even from the urban cities, the contribution what they can actually give towards our 5 trillion economy will be huge. And you need to have a lot of things has to be kind of put in place for good. So now, if you look at, I say it's a process. You're right. We can't capture entire India in one go. So,
But even a city,
in a city also, there are multiple ways of capturing. For example, there are level of details what we call level 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4 being or 5 being the highest, where it actually captures in a particular building how many families or how many people are staying. It depends on what a country or a city wants to kind of convert.
so you can take a neighborhood, or you can take part of the city, or you can take maybe just, let's say, the waste treatment plants or something like.
Can you do it in a very modular approach? So if I have to do Delhi for that matter, so maybe you can start with the airports to start build a virtual twin of the airport surroundings. Then you keep adding. So when you keep adding, you're not actually adding in isolation. You're actually building your virtual twin of the city gradually. That's where I say it's a process of building. Maybe then use cases are also important. While you start building it, there may be a department which may come and ask, hey, I want to put a over bridge here. So can I simulate and see whether it's really required and what kind of.
But how do you capture the data? For example, do you use
Yes,
drones?
you
Do you
can
use
use drone, you
satellite
can fly
imagery?
aircraft. If it is a low level, you can even go, it can be captured using
Subterranean infrared scanning
scan.
is
Yeah, so
also
most of
possible.
the there are methods and there are players who actually do that, and that information will be imported in our 3D experience platform, and then we build into a realistic virtual twin of the city, and then you start putting up your use cases.
Can you share some examples of what you may have done in Indian
So
cities?
Indian cities, one city which we have done is the Jaipur city. So the entire Jaipur city is actually captured virtually, and they mainly wanted to kind of help urban planners to improvise or build the new infrastructure facilities what they're going to bring in. I mean, one simple example or use case what I can actually share, which I heard from them when they presented also was they wanted to design a park which was a public park. So now the public car park, you can actually go, you get a land and then you can come with fancy park and do it. But what interestingly they have done is they have created virtually and started to assess if I place a park here, what kind of noise, air pollution it may attract. Is it really worth doing it in this? So then the simulation was done depending upon the live traffic and then the pollution, everything. And they later decided that this is not the right place to do the park. Better we need to do it like probably a kilometer away from the place. So these are some of the decisions which can actually help them to take proactively before jumping into a bigger mega projects. Same thing if you want to create a flyover, how does it help? How does it benefit? So all these things can be. So that's where Jaipur is actually working with multiple stakeholders to get those use cases, and urban planners will use it. And we have done it in Singapore, outside India as well.
And cities also have around them industrial corridors, right? So you are also doing some work for that.
Industry, see again, when you capture virtual city, it depends on what level of detail you need to go. So whether it is mainly associated to infrastructure related to your construction of buildings, to construction of the road and rail, you can stick to that and keep adding to that. On the industrial corridors, I should say we have a different approach, because for example, if there is an aerospace corridor, so we get into support them on our technology, which is widely used in that specific industry, for them to leverage. Like for example, in Tamil Nadu, we have done. In Tamil Nadu, we wanted to create an MSME cluster. So MSME cluster, they wanted to leverage our technology. So we created a hub for them where all the MSMEs or the startups can actually leverage our software to build whatever product they're doing. In particularly whether it is in aerospace or in shipbuilding or in automotive. So that's one exercise which we do with government to support them, to support all these corridors with the technology which can actually help them.
But not the designing part.
Designing part they do. We give applications by which they can design. So we provide a software by, as I said, right, for each vertical, whether it is construction, whether it is aerospace. So we have apps. If I have to talk in the current generation and the language, so applications become apps. So we have apps. So those apps sit on 3D experience platform. So that means as a design engineer, if I may be designing an aircraft or a car or a building, but based on my role, the app will give him, like, the application or the best practices to create a building or a car or a plane. So he will use that, and then he will design that, and then later on it will be sent to the simulation to see the behavior of it, and then how one can actually manufacture it or produce it. They will look at whether it is 3D printing or whether it can be done through some tooling. So they do that, and then they also take the same data and then do a wonderful rendering and then quality imaging, such that an end customer can actually even look at the end product on their cell phone to decide what they want to buy. That is directly.
That makes it easier, especially for officials in various municipalities or in the state governments when they are planning this, because a lot of people who have to use tech don't have a tech background. So in some ways, that interface makes it easier.
So interface has to be simple, because as you rightly said, not necessary that one has to have this tech background. So what the data does is, there are specialists who create the content. There are consumers who actually take decisions. That's where we say that for people who want to take decisions, for them the live 3D data will come into picture. They can simulate and see how does it behave, their approval, the process. I told you, right, in the virtual twin we capture the process also. So that means they can approve, they can comment, they can share their feedback, everything is stored. And now why, you may ask, like, why these things are important? Because at Dassault Systems, we've been doing for years, and now we are very particular, because any information what you feed will be within your own network, which is nothing but your own IP, which will help you to leverage AI later, because you're going to have your own companions which actually help you to build, right? So that's where the information is also captured.
And finally, you mentioned the third vertical is life sciences. Is that the manufacturing piece, or is that the molecule discovery part of?
We have one is on, of course, in life sciences, we have three areas, if I have to say. One, medical devices. Second thing is personalized patient care. And the third one is applicable for pharmaceutical companies. This is also the drug discovery you talked about. So there were right acquisitions made at right time to support the drug discovery. So most of the company users, and we were fortunate to contribute even during COVID on the digital clinical trial and then vaccination drug discovery. It was done using Dassault Systems platform as well. So that is one part of it, like where you have entire process of a pharmaceutical companies, how the drug is manufactured can be covered. Now on the medical devices is, as you rightly said, like an engineering, where we actually design virtually the equipment and then validate its behavior and then look into it. But the most important and interesting thing is on the personalized patient care. So all these time, like, we've been talking about creating planes, creating cars, and then making virtual city, right? So for a minute, you can actually think all these things are actually things. Now, even our executive chairman and CEO said, now how can we move from things to life? Things to life is, can we have a virtual twin of a human body?
Right.
So personalized human body. Like for example, if I have to say, I need to have a virtual twin of Pranjal. So how can actually have a complete replica of a person so that it can help in their personalized patient?
And in your case, as you add the data, it's also my medical history
Exactly,
is included
everything.
in that.
And we have,
Not just
yeah, we have
yeah.
launched, like, we have a living heart. So it's a virtual heart. So a doctor can actually do a virtual surgery before actually it does. We have a living brain, and then we have worked on the whole body. So this is something which is new, but yes, I'll say that possible. The tech is going in that direction, and then we are working towards that.
Deepak, let's talk about the future. How do you see the growth plan for the Dassault Systems? Are you looking at growing beyond these three verticals? Is there any target or vision that you would like to share?
Within these three sectors, we have plenty. Again, if I have to break down, we support almost close to 61 sectors within, sorry, 61 segments within that. I mean, for me, within transportation mobility, railway is a segment, two-wheeler is a segment, electric vehicle is a segment. So like that, infrastructure, life sciences put together, there are 61 segments. So if we have to cover, we have a huge potential opportunity. I mean, if I have to talk about India per se, we all know that we are actually in a real fast growth path. I know that we are going to be third largest economy soon. Having said that, it's equally important on the topics like, how do we make per capita increase, and then what kind of research we are going to bring in. So for us in India, particularly two areas which is very interesting. One, the R&D has actually increased. So that means, like, there are a lot of both corporate and then government is going to spend going forward in terms of how they want to take technology support or adopt the latest of the latest technology for the research and research part of it. And then the domestic need itself, we are fortunate, whatever it may be the geopolitical situation which we have, at least currently, looking at our population, looking at our domestic need itself, we've been fortunate to see how India market is growing. Now, where Dassault Systems India is looking at is, uh, while we've been growing in a okay pace for years, from last 3 years, we, particularly India, we started to grow in a higher double digit growth. And then our focus is to see how can we actually contribute more and more to our the global Dassault Systems by contributing best of the best for what's happening in India. And if I have to really look at, opportunities are there in all the sectors, as I said, and particularly infrastructure is something which is very big. Like, I mean, there is almost 2.4 trillion worth projects which is already kind of known that the government is going to spend. Now, if you look at every single person is talking about technology in every area. And take a scenario where tomorrow government may come back and say every single house, they need to have one solar panel for the sustainability and to preserve the energy. There is a huge opportunity for the solar panel makers, to the designers, and then the simulators. So this is where we are looking at, and then this is going to be one big bet where we are actually expanding, and our teams are also where most of them were focusing on for India, and also some of our product development team, or those who used to focus globally. Now, recently, you must have, I mean, when our CEO visit also, we were discussing that how can we invest in India for India. And that's how we have set up a new office in Pune, which is more than 2,700 capacity, other than what we already have, 3,000 plus people, for supporting India to contribute towards India growth.
But do you also see, and does our system also see India as a place for innovating for global solutions?
Actually, I will say yes to that, because things are changing so drastically, right? The new things are coming up. While the used cases matter, I mean, if you have to ask me, there are certain use cases which may be good in India. And I always say, if you want to kind of, like, create a new city, we have enough place here, and we can build the way we want, and then we can bring all the best practices what the world has actually adopted already, and now simulate that using a technology. And that's where I see that for Indian context, we definitely have a huge opportunity to tweak the way India wants. That's the reason we are focusing on taking some of the examples of what India needs and then help to build those products in those lines so that it can be quickly adopted as well.
So you're saying that there is a great opportunity for the Dassault Systems in India to contribute globally to your markets across, because some of the challenges that India has can resonate in many similar markets, not just in Western Europe and North America, but perhaps in other growth economies. Is that something that you're also looking at the subcontinental business, Deepak? So there is a lot of potential for creating solutions which can have an impact outside the region.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If I have to take example of the neighboring countries, right? So we started to get involved with Nepal for that matter. There are a lot of startups coming in Nepal. And very interesting startups. They are actually either in their battery design or they are into like electric two-wheeler. Yes, we were fortunate to kind of support. We saw that, and then similarly Sri Lanka, the tire industry in Sri Lanka is actually known. It was known for that. Now they are growing, and they also want to see how they want to kind of become a global exporter for many, because obviously with all whatever political scenarios were there, it's all getting stabilized and it's all getting back in Sri Lanka. So yes, there is a huge potential, barring the infrastructure development will happen in every country. But if I go back, there are certain countries like this, they are ready to promote startups, and they are coming up with new, whether it is electric car or electric vehicle or a battery maker. So we have been supporting them, and there is a huge potential there as well.
Deepak, you had a quite an exciting career. Um, what do you see your own vision in terms of moving ahead? You've held several interesting roles, but for Dassault and for yourself, what do you see as the future?
Yes, you are right. It's good in Dassault Systems. I was fortunate to kind of work in different roles, right from an individual contributor supporting a specific account to help them on what kind of value creation we can work with them, particularly in an aerospace and defense industry. Followed by, I was fortunate to work with government organizations to support on some of the education programs and the smart city programs, what we spoke. Now with role as an MD, I took over at a very interesting point, when in 2020, and nobody was aware what's going to hit. January 1st is what I took over, and March was COVID. So nothing was planned, and then you don't know what to do. So the interesting point at that point of time for us, particularly in India, was to look after people, look after our partners, and look after their families. So thanks to our headquarter, they really, I mean, of course, globally, everybody was actually supporting, and they all supported, and we were able to sail through that tough part with wherever work from home or like, support. Because for us, it's not only we work from home. For us, how do we support our customers was one of the key aspects, because our technology was used, and even a single day of stoppage may result in their own activities in terms of their production plan or their launch plan, right? So we were fortunate to kind of have right people who supported at that point of time. Now, at that point of time, personally, when I took over, I started to see that there is a huge potential in India. And this potential is actually taking us in a right direction, because everybody started talking about moving fast in terms of their digital technology adoption, or the way they wanted to expand their design or R&D or the manufacturing. And we started to see with our existing customers and the new customers, and of course added to the startups. So we were able to set our ambitions, and we kind of met that target. As I said, we grew higher double digit more than planned, and that was 22, 23, 24, and 25. So 25 we have planned. So now the interesting question is, what next? Uh, so India per se, we want to be at a very, very, we're in a very important junction now, where we want to contribute. And I mean, I know it's already in the media, I can say that. So globally also, our headquarters want to see only India contributing 1 billion for overall revenue. So 1 billion. So the dream what we have is to go there, and there are right actions has been taken in terms of the products what we actually offer, in terms of the people what we have, the expansions what we are planning. So I personally have some framework which I've created, and I've been talking to all my colleagues, and we have an extended partners, right? Those who are actually helping us to grow. So we just coined a simple terminology called dream. I've told them that let's dream. So D is the dream. In the dream, sorry, dare. I said dare. Dare is the one which we actually go and then really jump and then take some interesting, risky decisions to achieve what you want, right? So let's dare to do this. So in the dare, the D can be dream. Set your dream. No matter, nobody can stop you, right? I mean, I can dream whatever I can. So put that dream and then convert that into an ambition. So that is A. So set that ambition. When you set that ambition, then R, the reality comes in. Like, what do you have? What needs to be done? Plug those gaps. And then E is nothing but do a clear execution by which you can achieve. So this is the mantra which I've been kind of talking to people, and then we are all set to grow in the higher double digit for next 5 years, and then we are also aiming for the bigger plan, not only in terms of uh, uh, just doing it for India, doing it for the world as well. As I said, some of the development what we do.
Have you announced any investment figures also to reach that potential contribution of billion euros from India?
We don't actually put the number in place. Of course, the capacity or the right resources is what important to reach that goal, and that's one of the point where, thanks to our management in France, they've agreed to set up the right R&D labs in India. So, and also the value added services, I said, right, because it's not easy. Any whatever we do today, everything is actually, the technology is completely AI enabled. Also, you may know that today the AI is the topic, but what we are trying to do is every single person who uses our application will have a AI virtual companion to support him. So that means the technology has gone in such a way that one can actually really take help of that to design. So this entire development activity, support activity, implementation, whether it's on premise or on cloud is what something which is actually taking more and more. So we have invested on people first. So that is something which has been already done. And now we are actually going through the different market segments where we want to expand, and our partners ecosystem. And there is a roadmap defined for that.
One important point, Deepak, you worked with the government and you work with the company works at various levels, national, state, regional, local. Um do you have any advice or suggestions on what can be done to improve the innovation within the government in terms of ease of doing business, in terms of ensuring that better technologies are better absorbed at every level?
So, yes, one thing which I would rather put across as a request is to spend more time on research. Sorry, more money, and then put right resources on research and development. Research mainly because at every stage there is a innovation today. So it's not stopping to a end product how it's actually behaving. Even if you're planning for a city, or like you're creating a small component or coming up with a startup, now everything is associated that whatever I'm doing, is it sustainable? Am I contributing back to society by reducing carbon footprint? There are many questions which comes in. So for that you have to be innovative. You can call it as a sustainable innovation. So when it comes to sustainable innovation, you can't run away without using technology. Now the helping youngsters, particularly, we were fortunate to work with some of the state governments, setting up center of excellences to give them the right technology to make them industry ready. We talk about make them industry ready, but you can't actually have every engineer, aerospace engineer, to you can't take them to an aerospace hangar and then say this is how aircraft is built. But you can actually create a virtual aircraft and take them all around, including the hangar, shop floor, inside the aircraft, to show how the aircraft is made. So we are actually insisting government to see and leverage the digital technology at maximum, with a partnership with private universities and also with the industries, and then provide a necessary support to build workforce of the future. That is one, which has to be done at scale. While we are doing it at a very small level, it has to be done at scale. And there are certain policies with respect to infrastructure as well. So wherever it is possible, how can a technology can help, right from tax collection to integration with multiple departments, as I said. So it can be energy department working with water department to see what kind of work they are doing. Is there a single dashboard for them? So there are a lot of things which they can adopt, and then they can create employment also on that. So it's like, more and more people with a digital framework, they can sit and then they can actually contribute for the nation.
Thanks, Deepak. Thanks for joining us and sharing your story about what Dassault has achieved and its exciting future ahead.
Definitely exciting future ahead for every Indian, I should say. So you're all fortunate, and then we should shape this in such a way that we really become number one, not only in terms of our economy, but what we can actually showcase to the world as well. Design in India, for India, and for the world.
Thank you so much.